Hey, everybody. Welcome to this Winning Wednesday. Welcome to the Hustle and Shine podcast. I am your co host, lead facilitator tonight for this episode. I'm Tiffany Mathias, the one true Phoenix.
And it's Natima, Sheree, Queen Pen.
All right, Natima. So please forgive us. We have been experiencing technical difficulties, but that just means all things are going to be good and great because the adversary is trying to make us look foolish, but we're not trying to hear that this evening. So, Queen Pen, before we jump into today's episode, how are you? How have you been? We missed you last week.
Thank y'all so much for holding it down. Last week I got to be at an event, a work event, and it was super dope. And then I went to a happy hour, and that was super dope. So it was just really good to get out the house. Y'all know my whole life is at home. I work at home. I raise my child at home. I sleep at the house. I cook at the house. Like I was really glad to get out. I've been good. I'm fighting a head cold. My child is a germ breeder, so anything at school she feels the need to bring it home. So I've been fighting a head cold. If I sound a little raspy, or should I say more raspy than usual, because I have a naturally raspy voice, but if it's even worse today, that's why. Other than that, I'm good. This lighting is some garbage today, but you've already addressed that. So forgive me, y'all. But here's the thing. Good thing I'm light skinned anyway. Because I'm like, my lighting's like, no thanks, you're cool. But other than that, I'm good. I got news. My braces are coming off in 30 days. So
Oh,
I wish it was gonna be a time.
I can't wait to see.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm gonna still have them on my birthday, but they come off right after my birthday. I was like, really? That's so like you couldn't make that work for me. And he was like, well, seeing as how you don't wear your rubber bands, no, I couldn't. I was like, touche. So
He threw it back on you.
huh?
I said he threw it right back on you. Like, see if you'd have wore your rubber bands, they would have been off for your birthday.
That's what he said. He was like, well, seeing as how you don't listen. I was like, and he said, if you don't do what you're supposed to do following this treatment, don't come back here because we're not treating you again. I was like, oh, okay. Because I don't listen. I
Okay.
don't do what I'm supposed to do. So yeah.
Okay. Well, I am good. I'm good. I'm so excited. So, for those who don't know, I have been in the middle of an employment transition, and so I landed a new job this week, and I start in the new year, and I'm really excited about that. So, new year, new opportunities. Not new year, new me. New year, new opportunities. That's what I'm going forward with. All right. So we're getting ready to jump into this episode, but before we do, everything ties together. I want us to do a sober moment. All right. We're getting ready to do a sober moment.
Yes, let's do it. Where's our sober
All
up?
right.
I know we have it. See, this is why we need Mel, because Mel takes care of all of this for us. She does.
It's okay. It's okay. So this week's sober moment is brought to you by a teacher who went viral for recording a conversation that she had with a parent. The teacher called the parent on speakerphone and then recorded the conversation, and it was something like this. Hi, Mom. This is Miss So-and-so from your child's school. I'm calling regarding your scholar and their behavior today. And the mother's like, oh, I thought they...
Uh-oh. Okay, so she'll be right back. I think it's an internet issue. Look, she's dealing with internet issues. I'm dealing with lighting. It is just one of those hustle and shine days. At the end of the day, we're going to give y'all the show. Okay, y'all going to get a show out of us. So let me bring her back out and she going to get back to it. Okay, so as you were saying.
As I was saying, I told you that the internet... All right, back to the sober moment. So teacher calls parent regarding scholar's behavior, says, everything is fine except he's not listening today. And the parent was bothered by the fact that the teacher had the audacity to call her at work about this. The parent is quoted as saying, the reason I put my child in this school is because the teachers are supposed to be trained. Do you not know how to do your job? Oh, so sober moment. Was the parent out of line for speaking to the teacher like that? Whose
No, yeah.
responsibility is it to make sure that this child behaves in school? Is it the teacher? Is it the parent? Is it a partnership, which is what the teacher was asking for? This leads into our podcast topic for today. Who raised you?
Who raised you? Like seriously. Like I wanna know. I'm curious. So are we commenting on the sober up? Like can we say something about the sober up? Like can we talk about it?
I lost you.
No, I was saying, can we talk about it? Like, are we able to comment on the sober up? Okay, so
Yeah,
I'm gonna
comment,
lean in.
comment away.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean in for this one. So I got a couple of different views on this. As a mom who partners with her parents, I mean her teachers and her educators, her children's educators, whenever I see Gwinnett County Public Schools pop up on my phone, I don't care what I'm doing. I could be in the middle of a Zoom call, I can be in the middle of an in-person meeting. I'm leaving to take the call because my children and my children's education is my priority and it's my responsibility. It is not up to the teacher to make sure that your child learn how to act or behave. That's your job. You shouldn't even be sending them to school like a badass. Like, I'm sorry. Like, all you parents with these badass kids in school being disruptive to the other students, shame on you. Like, shame on you. You're a problem. Now, I will admit, I think her calling the parent on video was a bit it was inappropriate. I was looking for another word. I was looking for one of my other SAT words, but I think it was highly inappropriate. I think we're doing way too much to be viral. We're doing way too much to be seen on social media. You could have easily done your job and left that completely off the internet. No one on the internet needed to know that little JoJo in your class is bad as hell and that his mama don't want to partner with you to get his behavior under control. We didn't all need to see that. However, for the sake of the topic, we appreciate the fact that she was trying to do her job, that she was trying to alert the parent that her son is problematic, that he's not listening, and eventually it's going to affect his academic career. Not her, she got her job. So clearly she got her education. Your son, on the other hand, not many teachers would tolerate that. I know my daughter's school has a no tolerance policy for any disruptive children. You get one strike, you're out, get out. There is no multiple opportunities, no multiple chances, because you're supposed to send your child to school with the posture ready to learn. Anything outside of that is not these teachers, is not their commitment or their responsibility. They barely make enough. They make enough to educate, not to discipline, not to clothe, not to provide, not to, no. Their job is to give your children information. That is it. And so for her to even have that unrealistic expectation that, oh, you should get him under control. No, you should get him under control. Like, so yeah,
Mhm.
that's my opinion on that.
Yeah, I have to agree with all of that. I think the teacher was a little out of line recording it, and I'm pretty sure since it's gone viral, it's gotten back to the school administration and everything like that, and she's probably going to receive some type of disciplinary action for that. And I'm pretty sure the parent might be waiting for her outside of school, you know, whatever. But my biggest concern was the parent's attitude and like, well, I'm at work. Why aren't you doing your job, which is work with my child? I'm sorry.
Right.
I consider each and every last one of my kids, my children's teachers and educators a partner
Yeah.
because yes, they're with the teachers from 7:30 to 4:30 or whatever it is. But
Right.
at the same time, it's my job to send that child to school prepared to be educated.
Right.
And so that's how this whole episode came together with like who is raising these children.
Who?
I have a I have a lot of educators in my circle now that I work in youth development,
Mhm.
and I shared the link for tonight with all of them. So hopefully they're in the comments so we can actually hear from teachers, educators, people who are in youth development. And
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot of mixed reactions to this, and it's very scary that the children behave this way. There was also another teacher. She was a dance teacher. She teaches ballet, beginners ballet. And she said that the little girls don't want to stand, like, if you've ever done dance, ballet is about discipline. They don't want to stand in their positions. And they're literally, these 4 and 5-year-olds are telling the teacher that they don't want to do first position. They want to dance to ski and water and all this other stuff. And she's trying to teach them how to put a bra. And these little girls want to twerk. And it's like, this young lady was in tears. Like, what is wrong with children nowadays? And I have so many different ways to go with this, but I want to bring up the first question, which is, are wounded inner children raising today's generation? Like, I know I have a wounded inner child that I am trying to rear. Like, I'm trying to heal little Tiffany and be able to address her abandonment issues and all of those things there. But the blind can't lead the blind. So,
Right.
All those times when we were told as children, no, we now have parents who just openly and blatantly say yes to everything. All the things that they felt that they lacked growing up, they're now being very lenient in what it is that they do with their children. And I think it's creating monsters.
Yeah, agreed. I agree. I think, just to comment on what you said a moment ago about, is it the wounded, Tiffany raising children? And if we could just be honest, that's how every parent is. Our wounds go back to slavery. Our wounds go back to being kidnapped off the shores, of our homeland. So we're all growing up with some type of trauma, some type of generational pattern, but yet and still our parents still seem to have done their best to make us productive citizens and respectful young people. So I'm not excusing the fact that many of us are struggling parents, and there's no blueprint for parenting. There's no handbook. There's no cheat code. There's no, other than the Holy Spirit, okay? Because y'all know I believe God is the cheat code to life, right? But outside of what your religious principles or anything that you subscribe to spiritually can help you in guiding yourself and eventually your children, but most of us are doing this based on what was taught and what was caught. And what I mean by that is there are things that our parents intentionally, instilled and intentionally invested in us that we would be able to then replicate and emulate when we were older. But there were things that we just caught watching them as parents, right? We forget our parents were just as young as we are. My mother had her first child at 19 or 7, one of the teens, okay? And by the time I was born, she was only 20 years old. You get what I'm saying? And so think about that. At 20, what was your mindset? Yet and still, my mother was a proponent of discipline. She was a proponent of education. There was structure. There was rules. So I don't believe it has anything to do with what we may have gone through that was traumatic or what even we may be lacking. I literally just think it's the mindset of this generation. They're stupid. I hate to say it, but I gotta say it. Like, they just don't have common sense. Like, common sense is not common anymore. It really isn't. It's rare. And unfortunately, their priorities are not the same as ours were or our parents. My parents' priority were the children. These moms nowadays, the priority is themselves and whoever they're dealing with. Like, they kids is last on the list. You know what I mean? And they do that in the name of my peace and loving myself and all the other stupid cliche excuses we give when we're not doing what we're supposed to do. These children didn't ask to be here. You chose to have children, and therefore that choice comes with responsibility and accountability. And many of them they don't live up to it at all. So I'll pause because I could go in. So
Right. I know you can. And I'm glad that I'm able to have this conversation with you. Another thing that it's something that you said about, our parents being young. My mother had me when she was 17 years old.
Mhm.
Um, and then I too was a young mother. I became a mother at age 19. So yes, um, maturity has definitely played a role in it, with young mothers and everything like that. Young
Mhm.
parents. I'm not even going to say just moms, young parents.
Young parents, yeah.
But one thing my young mother used to ask me was, "Do I look like one of your little friends?" And the answer was always no.
No, no,
No,
ma'am.
you do not look like one of my little friends.
Right, right.
Um, and so I think coming from a generation where our parents asked us, did we look like one of their little friends? I
Mm-hmm.
know that I didn't want to be one of my children's little friends, but I did want to be their friend because I wanted them to feel safe coming to me about things that they would go to their friend about. I wanted to be able to at least mend that part of the relationship and
Mm-hmm.
being of having a type of friendship or that dynamic with my children. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'll get silly and I'll go out and whatever. My mother would have never danced with me, but I'll sit there and do a TikTok dance with Jade, or watch a silly movie with the kids or whatever it is, just to keep that bond and everything like that. But somewhere I think some parents got it twisted and they forgot that they're a parent first and then a friend, somewhere else down the line. And now they're solely their children's friends.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And see, even that, if I could just comment on that, I don't think we need to be parent and friend or parent versus friend. I think you just need to be parent. I think the issue is, again, because of the pain and the trauma that our parents carried through generations, they were not parents per se, but guardians, right? So their guardianship was provide, keep them safe, don't let them die. So that's where the friend part of parenting was removed from the you get what I'm saying? Because honestly, we don't even have to say I'm not my child's friend. That's a part of parenting. Parenting comes with
Mm-hmm.
nurturing and cultivating, and it comes with being a safe space, being a confidant, being a friend. All of that is under the umbrella of parenting. But because of the type of parents we had based on their generation, my parents was like, look, we guardians, okay? We gonna make sure that you got what you need. You understand? We gonna be this, we gonna be that. But not my parents. I'm sorry, my parents' parents. But then when it got to my parents, my dad is really big on communication. He would sit and talk to me and my siblings for hours. We could talk to our dad about it to this day. My dad is visiting for the holidays. Hey, dad. And I can literally talk to my father about anything. No topics are off limit. I'm not uncomfortable about having conversations with friends on the phone in front of him. You know what I'm saying? I'm myself with my parents because that's the environment they cultivated. So no, I don't feel like we have to even separate parent versus friend. No, be a parent because in parental guidance, in parenting, friendship is a hefty part of that. You know what I mean? Being your child's safe space, that's your job. How else do you teach them to then interact with others if you haven't cultivated that between the two of them? The problem is we think we're just supposed to rule with an iron fist. No, put it in a velvet glove. Make sure that you're still soft with them. Make sure that you're still gentle and nurturing. Don't remove that part of parenting. And so I think I agree with you that there's a huge disparity and an imbalance between the two, but I don't think we need to separate them. Be a damn parent. Like, parenting comes with everything. It comes with being a sous chef and a nurse and you know what I'm saying, and a guidance counselor and a bestie it's all of those titles fall under parenting, and we need to do better at it. Period. I think with these kids nowadays, raising kids, if I had to give them a title, they are they're more like siblings to their children. They don't want the
Oh.
responsibility. They don't want the accountability. Again, they're just acting as guardians, but on a sibling level. Like, we the same.
Mm.
Because I see little girls talk to their parent, they mama like they besties on some, like we're on the same level. Like we roommates kind of thing. I think that's what's wrong with this generation is that they don't understand the role of parenting. It's more so this just a little person that live in my house that happened to come out of my ass. Like that's I feel like that's what it is. So yeah.
I can't with you.
You know, I'm gonna
I
be
think
honest all the time. Like I'm gonna be explicit on a regular basis. God is working on me, y'all. Pray for me.
a work in progress. Listen, I have to agree on that, about the level there. Like there has definitely been a demotion in power and authority in some households.
Yeah.
Parents are really operating in the sense of like older sibling, I'm a lookout for you, you know. Um and that I want to say, I think some people are putting under the umbrella of cycle breaking. That's one of those that's one of those dog whistle words. Like, you know, I'm a cycle breaker. I'm not raising my children the way that my parents raised me. One of the first things that I did as a cycle breaker is I did not utilize corporal punishment. I did not hit my children. My
Right.
children, oh, my daughters, the three of them, and the oldest one is 28, getting ready to be 29 years old. Between the three of them, they can count on my one hand how many times hands was ever laid on them. And when I say that, I'm proud of that. And I have other people who turn around and look at me and be like, well, that's why your girls are the way that they are. And I'm sorry, I don't think beating them would have changed who they are in their personalities,
Right.
But cycle breaking, people are like, I'm not doing this because that's how my parents did it. I'm not doing that because that's how my parents did it. And so I think they use it as an excuse to not be disciplinarians or command the respect that they're supposed to get as a parent. I never wanted my children afraid of me. I wanted my children to respect me. And I didn't think that that was going to do a belt or a hand, and
Right.
respecting me means they'll respect other adults, including teachers, educators, coaches, and just anybody else who comes into their life. So what do you think about people who just you put it under, oh, I'm breaking cycles, I'm trailblazing, you rolled your eyes, I saw it.
Because again, I hate trends. I hate trends and I hate cliches and I hate that our culture are so sheep minded and that we repeat things that are not applicable to our situation or circumstance or life. But we'll say it because we want the likes and the follows and we want the you know what I'm saying, the validation from our peers on social media. But first I want to answer a question, but I want to address something you said about not spanking our children. Now, I got spanked growing up. I got popped growing up. I'll still get smacked. Like my mother still don't play. Like what you just say? Like what? You know what I'm saying? My mother will still flex on me. But I chose not to spank my children, not because I had an issue with it growing up or I didn't agree with that being a form of discipline, but because I knew I don't know how to cut it off. Like I don't know. I'll go too far and knock the kid out because I was a fighter growing up. Like those who grew up with me in Queens, they know me and Trina stayed in some fights. And so I was afraid that I would not know how to separate mom Tima from hitting on you versus Tima from the streets knocking you out. So I was like, I'm just not even going to do it. I'm just never going to hit my children. When I matured and got older and really then began to understand why that was such a healthy choice, because I realized if I hit my daughter with this hand and then reach out to comfort her, she's going to flinch. And I did not want her associating the hand that holds her and loves her and nurtures her and heals her when she hurts is the same hand that knocks her upside her head. You get what I'm saying? So that's why I was like, I'm glad I never hit my children, because I did not want them to have to then separate. Is this loving, nurturing mommy comforting me with the same hands that she just hit me with? No, they don't exist. You get what I'm saying? Like my hands have only held my daughters, comforted my daughters, covered my daughters. My hands have never hit my children. Now I will pinch the hell out of them. Okay. Now that they will get pinched and they know it. I will pinch them, but I do not hit my children. I don't agree. But to answer your question that I forgot, what was your question? I forgot the damn question. What was it? What?
I think you kind of answered the question because I was
Okay.
asking about, people who use the term cycle breaking and use it and saying that they're breaking generational curses or whatever and using it as an excuse to why they have poor parenting, why they have poor parenting techniques, essentially.
And the crazy thing is, no one ever said there was anything wrong with certain things. Scripture says, spare the rod, spoil the child. Jesus is telling us to knock them out. I'm just kidding. That's not what the Lord said. Don't, because people go be like, Natima said, I'm joking, but that is scripture for real, in real life. Scripture does say, spare the rod. But I think, honestly, a lot of young parents and a lot of parents in this generation, they attach their ideologies and their thought patterns to these trendy influencer stated things to feel like they're a part. I don't even think it's really what they want to do. I think it's just, oh, this is what everyone else is doing because it's the same way they date. It's the same way they marry. It's the same way they befriend people. It's based on these trends, right? Everybody else having these huge weddings that put them in debt. I got to have a huge wedding that puts me in debt. Everybody else, is dating with these unrealistic expectations. I have to have them too. So I don't even think it's because they've really examined themselves as parents. And real quick, I'm gonna insert this. We don't even have conversations about parenting when we're dating anymore. And of course, many of us usually have children by the time we meet the person, but when I was younger and I married my ex-husband, we never had conversations about our parenting style. So when our daughter was born, I saw how different we thought and how different, oh my God, the variance in how we think about parenting was extreme opposites. And it caused a
Mhm.
lot of conflict in our relationship and in our co-parenting as a result. And so there are so many parents like that as well. They have not had conversations about how do you plan to rear your children? What do you believe about curfews? What's your thoughts? Nobody's talking because we're barely lasting in relationships by the time the kid comes. You get what I'm saying? So it's
Yeah.
it's it's a lot, girl. We could be here all day unpacking this thing, but I'll stop.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can. And the fact that you brought up about parenting and dating, it fortunately was something that Molly and I had a conversation about because we came into our relationship with children. And
Mhm.
so there were ways that I parented my girls and there were ways that he parented his boys. And what I'm gonna say is that we have learned to have some type of balance in it. Um, there are hiccups, of course. No, it's not a utopia, but I definitely have changed some of my parenting philosophies as well as he has changed his. All right,
Yeah.
so we're going to move into the next topic, which is around the social and emotional development of young people. Now, this is where I was calling all my educators in to join us in the conversation. So, social and emotional development. There are some people who believe that the pandemic is partially to blame for the stunt in the social and emotional development of, I believe they're being called Gen Alpha now.
Mm.
So these are kids who um, essentially either the very beginning of their education or at some point in time in their education had that break due to the COVID pandemic and they weren't in school interacting with each other. They had to go through the pandemic, all this other stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm.
social and emotional development. Do you believe the pandemic impacted that?
No, I don't. I don't. I think it probably magnified, the impact, but the impact is a social media thing. It's a technology thing. When we were growing up, we didn't have as many gaps in school as they do now, right? I swear every time I look up my child out of school, like what the hell, digital learning day here and winter break, fall break, in between winter and fall break, like what? She ain't never at school. But I don't think it had anything to do with COVID because even if they could not go to school, there's still family at home. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that social development and social engagement should have continued. It should not have been a halt. What I believe is impacting, and as we used to call it back in the day, arrested development. I think the arrested development is a result of technology and social media. These kids don't play outside. Like, I legit did not, I don't know there's kids in my neighborhood until school. That is the only time I ever see children in my neighborhood, is when the school buses are coming, because they sit in the house on their phones, on their, laptops, on their iPads, on all the technology and all the devices. So they're not developing. And this is why, we have different type of bullying happening. I remember bullying in school. You say something, you crack on somebody's kicks, you crack on their clothes, mama jokes, all of those things. Either we fight it out or we just go about our school year. The social media bullying has, like, it's next level. Like, it's really detrimental to them in terms of anxiety and their mental health. I remember being teased in school, but I don't remember it affecting my mental health. I'm not saying it didn't. So I don't need none of these psychologists and psychiatrists coming for me. I'm not saying it did not have an impact, but it was not the same, because our children regard social media so much. Like, that is the holy grail of their existence. It's like the validate. My baby girl is 7 years old, and she has a TikTok account. It is limited. I allow her to have it because her older sister's on it. So the two of us take turns monitoring it. She has no friends. She's not allowed to have no followers, no nothing. She has it because she likes the videos and she likes posting videos of the dances she does with her sister, right? So she comes to me the other day. She had posted a video doing a dance with one of her friends at cheer. Mommy, we didn't get no likes. This is ridiculous. No one likes me. Like, all these self-esteem attacking. I'm like, close the account. We're done. I was like, we're done with this. Because your validation does not come from this. But many children, they believe that. And so it does put like this emphasis on who they are because of technology and social media. And so I think that's where their social and emotional stagnation is coming in, because they're not interacting with people. It had nothing to do with COVID. They weren't interacting with each other before then. I was out to dinner with a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago, and it was like a table of young people. I don't know what they were celebrating, a birthday or something. And they were young, like late teens, early 20s maybe, or a mixture of the two. Everybody was on their phone. Nobody was talking to each other. Nobody, like, literally. And I was like, let's count how long before the first person speaks. It was 11 minutes that they were sitting amongst each other. 11 minutes, Tiff. I set the clock on my phone and let the timer just go. When the girl finally said something, I turned it off. It was 11 minutes. No one said a word to each other. They were all on their phones. So again, it ain't COVID. It's technology, social media. Yeah, that's what I blame it on completely. So that's just my opinion, though.
Thank you for your opinion. And that's what we're all here about. I know we got some stuff happening in the comments. I'm sure that there's happening in there's responses coming in from the comments. Are you able to share any of them for us? I know.
I got you, Mama. Look, I had to move my blanket. I got my big old fuzzy blanket over here because it's cold. It is cold over here. All right. So we got Joyce in the comments. Hey, Jay. She said, hey, it's my favorite YouTube channel. And we love you for that. So thank you. I have hiccups now. Tiara says, good evening. Good evening, sweets.
Yes.
That's a good one. She says, it was inappropriate, but people need to see what our educators are going through. Their identity was not revealed. I don't know. I have mixed feelings. Okay.
Respect.
Yes, thank you, Tiara. Oh, we have one of our gents in the building. Hey, Neil. He says, agreed. Parents need to solely focus on being a parent. These generations have truly taken advantage of parents whom deem themselves as friends. Good point.
Thank you, Neil.
Yeah, it looks like he's on the same side of the coin as you. Hi, Jada. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. She says, we don't have to be extremists. Eat the meat and spit out the bones, period. There will be experiences from our childhood that we will ensure aren't duplicated. but there are also valuable lessons. I agree. I agree. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, I
He
agree.
gonna, he gonna get dirty again.
Do you want me to take a
He
few
gonna get
more?
dirty again.
Huh?
One more. I said the baby gonna get dirty again.
Period. All right. So Neil has a question for the panel. He says, how do you view the parents of children who are now wayward, but the parents have positioned them in the best path possible, but they didn't follow the path granted to them? Oh, that is such a good question. Thank you, Neil.
Can I take this question?
Of course.
All right. My mother and father raised 6 children. And up until recently, I was like, we were 6 children raised in the same household. How are we on different paths? So we have, of the 6, 3 graduated high school, 3 ended up with GEDs. Of the 6, 2 have spent time in the penal system. Of the 6, 2 have degrees. The parents can provide all of the opportunities, and it's very much like a formula, like a recipe.
Mm-hmm.
One little ingredient can change the whole recipe, like accidentally putting salt in the cake batter when it should have been sugar, or accidentally, corn flour, corn instead of flour. It will change the composition of what it is that you're trying to make. And so you can keep putting the same things in the parents, but it also is about the relationship that that child has with those parents. And so my understanding has now been that my parents raised 6 children in 6 different households because they had 6 individual relationships, and 12 because it was 2 of them. 12 different relationships happening in the household. So yeah, parents can provide everything, but the children have to also be receptive to receiving what it is that the parents are giving them. And I'm just going to say, for whatever reason, there are different points in times in our lives that of the 6 of us, we didn't take what it was that they were giving us. And it led us on these 6 different paths that we're on.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I hope that answers. Do you have something else to add, Tima?
Yeah, I do. Like, first off, I want to say that every child is different, right? I have 2 daughters from the same womb, okay, but they are 2 different personalities, 2 different temperaments, 2 different attitudes. They are very different, even though they both came from me. That's the first thing. Like, our children are not identical to our character, personality. They don't learn the way we do. They don't absorb things the way they do. They don't ingest things the way we do. The other thing to consider is we are not our children's only influence. Our children have, and now because of social media, it's made the world so much smaller. So they have even more resources and, avenues and conduits of information and influence. And so we can't expect, just because of what we're teaching at home is not being tainted or what's the word I'm looking for, intersected by something external. We cannot control everything in their environment and in their atmosphere. So, and in their sphere of influence. And so, yeah, I believe that you could do everything right. You can be the best parent, the best provider, the best friend, you can do all those things right, and your children still grow up and not make the best decisions because that's their path. I am content with knowing I've done everything right, or everything that I thought was right for my children. Here's the other thing to consider. You have to know the parent you were when you first had the kids are not the parent you are now. And so give them some grace because you didn't have it all together either. There are things that I will do with my first daughter that I don't do with my youngest. And there were things that I do for my youngest that I wish I was smart enough and wise enough to do with my oldest. But I wasn't the same woman. I wasn't the same parent. I wasn't the same mom, So again, that impacts their perspective, their views, their values. At the end of the day, you just have to be okay with saying, I did my best. I love them the way I was supposed to. I provided, but the decisions, that's like, real quick, what's the chick with the son, the son on death row. I forget her name. She's a activist now, the mom. But she's a son on death row. She's like, look, I don't hold myself accountable for none of the decisions my son made. He made those decisions out of my house as an adult. It is not because of upbringing. And so we shouldn't always blame the parent, but for so, you know what I'm saying? But for so long. Now, as a child, you got a 7-year-old wild for the night. Oh, that's you. Oh, believe that's you. But if you got a 27-year-old, no. Those are his choices. So I don't believe all of it is our fault or all of it is our benefit, because there are things that I learned from other people outside of my parents about education, about my career. They didn't have those things to give me, but there were people in my vicinity and in proximity that did. So yeah. I hope that answers your question, Neil.
Absolutely. And thank you for asking a question instead of just providing a comment. We love to interact with the community. All right.
Yes.
So this is going to be my next question in this. Should we teach our children to advocate for themselves? And by that, I mean to ask questions, to challenge authority respectfully, not to be smart asses. Like, I think there is a difference. Our youngest boy, God knew what he was doing when he didn't give me a son when I was a single mom. Because this little boy right here, he asked a question. I had a conversation with him on Sunday. I was like, you don't like to have conversations. You like to have debates. He wants to know, he wants to get to the marrow of a situation, and he's going to ask questions, and he's going to challenge authority. And some people find this disrespectful. For me, it doesn't bother me all the time until now. It's like, boy, you just asking questions to get on my nerves because you see it and got me frazzled. But I don't want him to do it in a sense of like, we try and instill in him, like, when you're in school or you're out traveling and somebody tells you, particularly an adult tells you to do something, we need you to do it right then and there because your safety could be at hand. But at the same time, we want him to broaden his knowledge. So where's that safe space for children to speak up and advocate for themselves and ask questions and challenge, even if it is an adult, what's being told to them, and then when is it disrespectful?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So as the resident spokesperson out of my siblings, I was always outspoken. I challenged everything. My parents would make us go to bed at one time and then my older siblings at another time. And I was like, yo, this don't look right. Why they get to go to bed later than us? And so I will say that I emulate my dad in that way, because my dad let the questions come. He answered the questions. He never hit me with because I said so. Like, my dad would always give me an answer for my question. Now I'm gonna still do what he said, but I'm gonna do it now with understanding. I now am like, okay, to this day, Tiff, you can ask anybody in my life, but I know firsthand, I still ask a million questions until I'm comfortable and I feel like I understand what's being asked of me. I'm going to keep asking questions. It pisses some people off and they feel like I'm being facetious or condescending, but I don't really care, because in all you're getting, get understanding. I need to understand. Now, for my daughter, my youngest, she's my twin to the 10th power plus tax, carry it over. Okay. She is exactly like me. She's going to ask 6,000,005 questions. I answer all of her questions. And the reason I teach her to ask as many questions as you have in the most respectful way possible, because here's the thing, not all adults can be trusted. So I'm not teaching my daughter, you do whatever any adult tell you. Hell no, because there's some trifling, crazy, ridiculous adults out here. If it doesn't feel right in your gut, I want you to trust your discernment, because that's what my parents gave me. They let me trust my own inner voice and say, something ain't right. This don't sound right. I'm going to question this. So I'm the same way with my daughters. Like, if it don't feel right to you, sound right to you, it probably isn't. And I don't care if it's an adult telling you to do it. You're not going to until you feel comfortable. So perfect example, my daughter, I'm telling her to do something and I'm not paying attention. I'm like, just do it, just do it, just do it. We gotta go. She didn't do it. And so I turned around, I'm like, why didn't you do it? And she's like, well, mommy, because you didn't turn the stove off. And so if I reached for it, I would have burned my arm. So I had to apologize to my child because of me not paying attention, gave a directive with an assertive directive, but she trusted herself like, no, that don't look right. If I reach for that, I'm going to get burned because mommy left the stove on because I was making
Mhm.
tea or whatever. And so I'm glad that she challenged me. One, I apologize to her. Parents, it's okay to apologize to your children. You're not perfect. Okay. All right. But I also was proud of her because it wasn't right. She was like, no, this ain't right. I'm gonna just wait. And if I get yelled at, I get yelled at. So no, I don't teach my kids to not question, but I do teach them try to be as respectful as possible. Because my baby's 7, she don't know what's respectful and what's just 7. You know what I'm saying? So she'll say
Mhm.
anything. Stuff just fly out of her mouth. But for
Yeah.
my 15-year-old, I'm like, trust yourself. The same innate qualities God gave me, He gave you. And they're developing, but they're still present. So don't second guess yourself. If it doesn't feel right or sound right, don't do it. I don't care what adult is telling you to do it. So that's just how I'm raising my children. But that's what I believe. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. And I believe in what you said about, them going with their gut feeling and, not all adults are good adults and
Right.
you should one of the things that I'm sitting here with this youngest boy of ours is we're working on learning when to advocate for himself and when it's just like, all right, I'm a be quiet and I got parents at home who can speak on my behalf. I don't always believe that. So first of all, I'm going to say that I know the children that are at school are not the children that are at home. You know,
Right.
that whole
Right.
like when the cat's away, the mouse play. They get a little they get a little
Mhm.
full of themselves when the
Right.
parent isn't around, everything like that. So nine times
Mhm.
out of 10, if a teacher called me and said my child did X, Y, Z, I was like, I'm pretty sure they did, especially knowing how I am, how my husband is. Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what they said and did. Absolutely. Yep. Now let's figure out why they said and did that.
Right. That part.
What I wonder though, for myself is, am I actually doing them disservice by swooping in too soon? Like, am I
Mhm.
should I'm not a hover mother, but
Mhm.
don't come for mine. Like, I will
Agreed.
be I will be up at the school. I will speak to you. I'll deal with them, on the side there. But I
Mhm.
really want them to be able to learn how to speak up and utilize the power of their voice, because
Mhm.
that whole children should be seen and not heard. That was
Period.
something that I saw you roll your eyes with that one. You heard Granddaddy say it many a times. Children should be
Many
seen and
times.
not heard.
Right. Right. That
No,
was
they
my childhood.
like, this is our future. They see things from a totally different set of eyes. Sometimes it's unjaded and unfiltered, so it's more of a truth. Absolutely allow them to utilize their voice
Right.
in time and place. You got to teach them the discernment, as
Right.
you said. So, do we have any more comments? Because I'm getting ready to go into the next subtopic.
Let me see. Did we get any new comments? All right. So Sierra says, I think it did affect some children. Households are different. I believe she's referring to COVID affecting developmental, social and emotional development. Jada says, yes, those conversations about parenting styles are essential. Agreed, Jada. We completely agree. Neil says, thank you for taking my question, panel. Please continue the fantastic discussions for our community and like minded viewers. Much appreciated. We are so grateful to you, Jen. Thank you for being here and supporting us. Please come back again and bring your questions with you. We're happy to
Thank
answer them. Joyce says, my sons ask questions and they go as far as to ask the reason why they have to listen. Look, I'm here for it. I'm
you.
so here for it. And if I could just make one more last comment about that tip before we move on. The reason I think it's so important not to mute our children or not to teach them to shrink when they have a question, that's one of the greatest gifts I think my parents ever gave me. They recognized very young that I was a chatterbox, that I was a talker. And now, look, that's what I do for a living. I make a lot of money to talk. Like, seriously, like corporate America pays me well to use my voice. I'm also using my voice, to run a business. And so had they stifled that and how had they discouraged that, I would have never stepped into my purpose. I would have never became who I am. And so we have to consider that holistically. Like if you see certain nuances and things in your children, ask God for guidance and wisdom, because that could very well be a part of who they're going to be, whether it's a politician or some type of social activist. You just don't know where that gift is going to show up. And if we discourage it and stifle it and we suppress it in them, they'll never fully become who we want them to be or who they're supposed to be, not even who we want them to be. So let's be very careful in discouraging our children for advocating for themselves, because the another issue with parents is we're not healed. And so we take their question as disrespect because we really just don't have an answer for it. So instead of us being emotionally mature and emotionally intelligent and saying, you know what, honey, I really can't answer that, we yell at them and we scold them. And you know what I'm saying? We chastise them when really we're the ones that needs that correction. Because it's not that their question was disrespectful. You felt disrespected because you don't have an adequate answer, and that was exposed. We have to be willing to be vulnerable with our children. When my daughter asks me questions about her dad and my relationship, it's painful because I hate him. But it ain't her fault. I'm not going to get mad at her for asking about him. I'm going to do my best to truthfully and vulnerably answer her question at a level that's sufficient for her age. I'm not gonna go into too much. Like, your dad was a cheater and a liar. I ain't gonna do all that. But I'm gonna be like, unfortunately, mommy and daddy did not work out, but we both love you so much. You get what I'm saying? So instead of being upset by her question and telling her, don't question me, blah, blah, no. Try your best to give them a real answer, and then deal with yourself when you feel that anger coming up when they ask a simple question. Because if you're triggered by a question from your own babies, that's you, not them babies. And I said what I did. So, all right, go ahead.
I received that message because that little one, he will trigger me. He will trigger me to the point that I'm like, because I said so. But that's after I done gave the logic and the reasoning. And with that being said, I'm a stretch beyond my growing edge and allow him to keep questioning things and debating things, because who knows, I might have the next Thurgood Marshall on my hands or something like that, because this boy loved to debate.
You don't know who he's becoming, girl.
I don't know who he becoming, but I know who I'll be turning into with him. But that's going to take us into our third topic for the evening. What did Whitney sing about? She said she believes the children are the future, right? So now that we have identified these shortcomings and these problems with the children, we think we know where the roots are coming from. How do we fix this? Because it's only growing. And so a couple of people in the comments, I know, are in education and everything like that. What is the solution? Because we can't just bippity boppity boop and all of a sudden we have mature parents who support their children and everything like that. So what are some things that we can do to help these babies find their ways? Because being disrespectful, not developing the skills that you need to cope with society and engage with the world as children is only going to lead to adults who are disrespectful. And we both work in HR, so that means they're going to be in our offices.
Yep, that part.
So how we take these children and make and help mold them into functioning members of society?
Now, you know how I do. It's always about self, right? We got to start with us. I really believe in order to mold and groom children, we have to be healed adults. I think we need to do the inner work, because our children do what we do, not what we say do. And I had the hard way. I could tell my kids an instruction, a directive, guidance. They're doing exactly what they see me do.
Mhm.
And so we have to lead by objective. We got to lead by example. We have to lead by love. But if we don't deal with ourselves first, like you said, some of that generational trauma, those generational patterns, those ideologies about parenting that we hated growing up, and we still to this day can't see the benefit of them. So instead, we decide to disregard them when really some of them are beneficial. Structure is beneficial. I shouldn't come to your house or call your house at 10:30 and your child is still awake on a Tuesday. Like, no, your baby should be in the bed. Your baby should have a bedtime. Your teenager should not be coming in the house at midnight on a Thursday. They should have a curfew. So I think us doing better at enforcing and or implementing and enforcing boundaries. Most of us talk about, setting boundaries as adults. Had you learned it as a child, you would have it as an adult. It wouldn't be something
Mhm.
you have to develop. It would be a part of your nature. It would be who you are, is to set and enforce boundaries. So many of us are writing that in our confessions on social media, and we're talking about it with the therapist, and we're talking about it in relationships, and we're just now getting to that point. So look at the disparities in your life, look at the gaps in your own life, look at the lack in your own life, and decide to not do that to your children. So I think it's going to take selfless parenting. That's going to be the first thing that we can solution. Be selfless parents. It's also going to take being more realistic about the world we live in.
Mhm.
2023 ain't like 1983. It ain't like 2003. It ain't like 1993. It's completely different. And so we have to then be acquainted with how they view the world. Like you said earlier, what does the world look like to our kids? To my daughter, social media is life. I don't think that way, but I still have to understand why she thinks that way and then parent her from that vantage point. Opposed to telling her, girl, get over social media. It ain't that serious. It is that serious to her. And that to me is selfish when you refuse to see why it's so important to your child. That's the world she lives in. This is her era, technology and social media driven era. So instead of scolding her and correcting her, correct myself. Okay, Tima, try to understand why this is so important to her. Try to look at it from her vantage point and from her perspective. And you know what I'm saying? And then nurture her and guide her from that perspective versus trying to get her to adopt to the mindset of a girl raised in the 90s. That's stupid. This ain't the 90s. It ain't been the 90s for a few decades. So I think those are just a few things that we can do is be realistic about the difference in time. Be
Mhm.
realistic about all that our children are up against. It is not the same fights we had. And then do better at building and creating structure for them, creating boundaries for them, and then supporting them. Those are just a few of the things that I can think of. I know I got plenty more, but we're running out of time.
No, I agree with what you said there. Additionally, I want to add on, we have to look at it takes a village to raise a child. And so I can't teach what I don't know, but that doesn't mean that the resource isn't out there. So,
Mhm.
for example, if you are a single mom and you are raising sons, there are certain aspects of raising young men and transitions and stuff that they go to, mentorship programs.
Yes.
Back in the days, you used to have big brothers, little and big brothers, big sisters.
Mhm.
You used to have those things. There are community programs out there that offer mentorship programs. um, don't be afraid to go and join a parenting group. Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
the same way that the kids need support, we need support too. And sometimes sitting down and having conversations with people who have similar situations to ourselves, and it's a judgment-free zone. We got to make sure that's very important. These are safe and judgment-free zones. you know Go out there and find what it is that you're missing, you
Mhm.
know because if not, you're sending an incomplete individual out into the world, and the
That's
world is not going to be as kind to them as you are. And so
Right.
essentially you're setting the child up for failure because everybody is not going to understand that this is just how little Billy or little Bobby is. They're
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. Agreed. That's so good. That is so good, Tiff. I agree.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So as we begin to approach the hour, or we're slightly over the hour, I want us to move into here is a gem.
Look, let me get my screens all the way together because girl, I'm not as good as Mel. Here's a gem.
All right, I'll start us off. It is all well and good to see and recognize that there is a problem in the community or a problem, but you cannot sit on the sidelines and keep pointing out what the problem is. What the problem is. The reason that we have these conversations here at the Hustle and Shine podcast, the reason that the Diamond Writers write the books that we do, right, is because we're trying to provide information and inspiration to other people. Because I know I don't know all of the answers. So I
Right.
go and find people who have the answers. Change your circle, expand your circle,
That's
go
good.
out there. And on this internet that we're talking about, that the kids are on, there's a wealth of knowledge there. And whether it is, as I said, parenting programs, mentorship programs, community-based organizations, whatever it is out there. So if you see and recognize that there is a problem, instead of sitting around just pointing out that there's a problem, try and fix it. Your
Yeah.
little corner, your little strip. And that means starting with your child.
Mm-hmm. That is so good. Snap, snap, snap. That is good. Honestly, the only thing I want to add to all that I've already said and just to piggyback on what you said is before you adjust and, improve your parenting style, heal the parent. Like I encourage you to deal with the parent before you address the parenting or the co-parenting. You got to deal with you because a lot of what we see in our kids is what they've seen in us, is what they've watched us
Mhm.
do, what they heard us say. We have to be careful how we speak to them. Our words have impact, our words have power, and our words do grow seeds in within our kids. And so let's just be better parents, and we can then see better parenting, and then we'll see the fruit of that. So that's literally all I want to say about that. Like, let's be better parents, and then we'll see better parenting emerge.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to thank all of the educators, the teachers, the administrators who are with these children. And yes, though you are professionally trained, it does not prepare you by far for actually interacting with these people. So I want to give a special toast to all of the unsung heroes, the teachers, the educators, the people who still believe that the children are the future. We love and appreciate you for all your hard work and dedication. All right, this has been the Hustle and Shine podcast. And until next week, don't forget to hustle and shine.
And shine.
Don't
Good
be like,
night.
share, subscribe.
Let's go. Let's go.